Okay, everyone, so I notice you having a little bit of trouble with adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So we're going to try a little bit of a different way. If you're struggling, I would like you to try this way to see if it works for you. So the reason this is important is because if you find like denominators instead of just multiplying your denominators, then most likely, not always, but most likely your fraction will be in simplest form and you won't have to simplify, which we are going to have to do to be able to recognize the answer on the test. So one thing I want to highlight that's really important when we're doing this is called the LCM. It's the least common multiple. Multiples are the count bys of a number. It means to multiply. You're multiplying. So if I have this little chart right here, it says multiples of 3 and multiples of 5. Okay, you're writing down all the count bys of 3 and all the count bys of 5 and finding that common denominator, and we're looking for the smallest. So I notice 30 and 30 are in common too, but I'm looking for this number least, and least means small. Okay, so I'm going to start this process by making myself a simple flow map. And I want to start with my problem of 1/3 plus 1/2. I see that they're different denominators, so I already know I have to change them to be able to add them because I can't add fractions with unlike denominators. So my first step always is to change the orientation of your fraction to make it go up and down. So here's from side to side, here is up and down, and we want it to go up and down. My next step I need to do is circle the denominators to find the LCM. So I circled both of these, as you can see, and I see I need to compare 3 and 2. So far I'm comparing. If I move over to my next step, I've already started this process. It says change your denominators to the least common denominator. So right now I'm writing out the multiples of 3, and I'm doing it 5 times. So I have 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. If I do 2, 5 times, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If I count the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can tell what I multiplied 2 by to get that number. So I'm going to circle the ones they have in common, the least one. So I'm looking at this, and the first one I see is I see a 6. Oops. I see a 6. Oh, I can barely circle that. Let me try that again. A 6 and a 6. Sorry about my circle. It's not really on the 9, it's on the 6. I want to rewrite my denominator as 6. So I'm going to change this to a 6, which it tells me right down here. If I'm looking at this next step, change your denominators to the least common denominator. I'm going to change the other one to a 6. Okay, now it says if you changed your denominator, you have to change your numerator. Okay, that's the only way it's going to make sense. If you do something to one part of the fraction, you have to do something to the other part because they work together. Now, I want this written in your notebook so you have notes on what to do. Please make sure you have it out and pause the video to get all of this information written down. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. I changed my denominator to 6. Now I have to figure out how do I change that numerator. So I'm going to use this rule I'm going to use this process right here. Take your new denominator, which is 6, and divide it by your old denominator, which is 2. So I'm going to do 6 divided by 2. I'm going to write that down right now. Divided by 2. And it says to get the multiple that you will multiply your numerator by. So if I have 6 divided by 2, that gives me 3, and I'm going to make myself a little arrow. Say 1 times 3. And what's 1 times 3? 3. I'm going to do the same thing to the top. That changed my numerator. So I'm changing my numerator, just like it tells me here, step 2, change your numerator by multiplying. So I divided the 6 by 2, came out with the answer of 3, and I multiplied my numerator by 3 to get my new numerator. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other fraction. I have 6 divided by 3. So here's my old one, here's my new one. Here's my old one. 6 divided by 3. I'm going to use my arrow, and I'm going to multiply that by my answer. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, so I need to multiply 1 by 2 to get my new numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I can add. So if you come over here in my next box, and I'll put an arrow right in there for you so you know it's a flow map, and we're going over here to this part of the flow. Now that it's changed, I can go ahead and add. So 2 6 plus 3 6 equals, and I'm going to write it off to the side here, because, well, I don't have enough space, so let me move this up just a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to, because it's going to ruin it. So 2 6 plus 3 6 gives me, I add my numerators, right? And I keep my denominator the same. So I'm going to put a k. Oh, I'm not going to do that because I can barely write a k without my little pen. K, keep, k, keep. 2 plus 3 is 5. Keep my denominator, and it's 6. You're adding your fraction. My answer is 5 6. You will do the same thing for this adding process for subtraction. But in the last step, you will subtract instead of add. So in this step right here, you will have a subtraction sign, and you will subtract instead of add. Okay, so now that I've gone through the new process, you have it written down. I want you to try these 4 problems the way I taught you. If you're still struggling, you can do it the old way, but I'd like you to try using the least common multiple. And I'm going to check these when you come to my group. So number 1 is an add, number 2 is an add, 3 and 4 are subtract. You have 1 6 plus 2 fourths, 3 eighths plus 2 sixths, 2 thirds plus 1 half, 3 6 plus 1 fourth. Now the other way you were doing it is multiplying 4 by 4 over here and 6 by 6 over here. That will work for some fractions, but you may have to simplify. And the answer might not be on the test if you multiply this way and this way. Your answer might be too high, or the fraction might be larger or bigger than it needs to be. So try these on your own, and when I call you to my group, show me what you have.